So what kind of horror atmosphere would it be if we didn't have a couple of flickering lights? So there are two ways to do this. One with simple re-triggerable delays, and one with light functions. I'll be showing you how to do both because there are pros and cons to both. So first we will start with a light function. So let's add a folder and we'll call this materials. Open it up and we will make a material and we'll call this M light flicker. And we can open that up as well. We want to change the material domain from surface to light function. And that eliminates all our inputs right here to just a mess of color. Alright, so this is a fairly simple material. We just want to get the time node right here, and we want to multiply it by a constant parameter. So if you hold down the 1 key and you click, it'll create a constant. Otherwise, you could just right click and type in constant. Now we want to right click on the constant and press convert to parameter, and we will call this speed. This will be the speed of our light flickering. I'm going to make the default 1 and plug that into the multiply. Bring that farther back a bit. We have to run this through a sine node and run that through a frac node. And then we want to clamp the intensity. So get a clamp, and for our min and our max, we'll hold down 1 and we'll create a constant. We'll make another one. We're going to convert both to parameters. We'll call this one min intensity, and this one max intensity. So when our light is flickering, it will only go between our values of 0 and 1. If we change our max intensity to 1. And these can be altered, of course. And let's plug those into the min and the max, and plug this into emissive color. And all of a sudden, it starts flickering. And we can mess with these values. So if we change the min intensity to something like 0.7, and hit save and apply, it'll apply automatically. It is now going between values of 0.7 and 1 rather than 0 and 1. With this light specifically, it's pretty hard to tell just with this sphere right here. So let's go ahead and add it to one of our point lights. So let's take this point light. If we scroll down, we have our light function material right here, and we can drag this in. It's much, much easier to tell when it's actually connected to a light. So this is a value between 0.7 and 1. Let's make a material instance of our material right here, so we don't have to keep going in. And we'll just call it inst, open it up, and we can check all these 3 things, save, and let's replace our light function material with the instance. It'll look the exact same because we didn't make any changes. But now if we go into our instance and change the min intensity to 0 again, hit save, we can now see it goes between 0 and 1. It gives a much more intense version of a flicker, but also much more distracting. It depends what you want. It depends what works for your horror game. I'm going to leave this back at 0.7. We can also adjust the speed. So if we change this to like 5, it'll become a much faster flicker. This is more accurate probably to real life flickers, at least to how I've seen them. Once again, it depends on what you want, and it depends on your game. So you can continue to make instances if you want to just keep changing the values for different things. These are values I like, and we have a good flickering light. Now the cons of using a flicker like this is it's not technically random. It does look good, but it is a pattern. It's not truly random. That's why I'm showing you the second version, which is truly random, and that'll be a blueprint version. So if we go into blueprints, actors, we can right click, create blueprint class, actor, and we'll call this BP flickering light. Open this up, and we can add a point light, compile and save, and in the construction script, grab our point light, and we want to set intensity to a new variable. So we can just right click on new intensity here, promote to variable, and we'll call it intensity. Let's make it 5,000 by default, because that's the default intensity of our point light. And then in event graph, on begin play, we're just going to be calling a retriggerable delay. And every time this is called, we are going to adjust the intensity of our light. So the duration of this delay, we want it to be random. So we'll get a random float in range. And we can promote both of these to variables. So we'll call this min time and max time. Values I think are good. We'll have to compile it first. Are 0.1 seconds and 0.3 seconds. So a random number between 0.1 and 0.3 is when this will be called. And we want to get a flip-flop node, which means it'll choose A, and next time it's called it'll choose B, and then back to A, and then back to B. So on A, we want to get the point light and set the intensity. And this new intensity is going to be our fourth and final variable, and we're going to call it min flicker intensity. And we'll compile, and I'm going to set this to about 3,500. So this is the lower side of the intensity, because our default is 5,000. And then on B, we want to set the intensity of the point light back to its regular, which is our intensity variable right there. After both of these are done, we want to recall the retriggerable delay. So we can just drag this over here, and we can kind of pull it up to kind of see what's happening here. We can double click on the path to create a reroute node, and that can clean things up for us. So pull that down there, create another reroute node, and that makes it a lot clearer what's going on. And this set intensity will plug right into this reroute node as well. So after both of these, we call the delay again. It waits a random amount of time, and then it'll set it to a lower intensity or a higher intensity, depending on which one it did last. So we can compile and save. Before we exit, let's change all of these variables to editable by clicking this little eye icon. We can compile and save. We can drag our flickering light into the scene. Yeah, let's leave it somewhere right there. And here on details, because we made it editable, we can change all these values. So we can change the default intensity. It'll update in real time because we put it in the construction script. I'm going to leave that at 5,000. Oh, it's 500. Once again, typed 500, 5,000. And we change the minimum, which is kind of the same thing of changing the min and max intensity here between 1 and 0.7, but here we change it between the actual values. So we hit play, turn the flashlight off. You can see this one is actually truly randomly flickering. It's a little slow at the moment. We might need to speed it up. Now, the pros of this, obviously, is that it's actually random. The cons is that it is more of a toggle between two intensities rather than a fade like this one is. This one fades in and out between the intensities, while this one toggles. To make it look better, we could speed it up a bit. So we could make the min 0.05 and the max 0.15 maybe. Hit play. And now it's a bit faster. So ultimately, it's up to you which kind of light flicker you'd prefer to use. Both have their advantages, both have a couple disadvantages, or I guess not a couple, but just one each. So you can decide what is right for you and what is right for your horror game.